I have so many thoughts on this because then my question is, which was a big question I had for you, is kind of this idea of discipline. And I'm curious your thoughts on it because, on one hand, discipline is needed to create a habit, to show up every day. You said that you show up the same way every day as when you're motivated, quote unquote, and when you're not in the morning,
Yes.
right? But then there's this idea of being gentle with yourself and cutting yourself slack. So, how do you find the balance between the two? Or how do you know when it's time to practice discipline and when it's time to rest?
That's a great question. So I have a way of looking at it that I learned over the last year because because of so many things that I had going on in my life, I was like consistently pushing myself, consistently like working my ass off and across the board, draining myself. My habits weren't ever draining. It was more what I was doing in a sense of career wise that was just taking a lot, but overly exhausting myself. And I had almost wired my brain to think I'm disciplined, like I'm showing up for myself across the board. And so I learned where to actually give yourself grace and how I think I've got a good way of looking at it. So when you have a night where you don't sleep, like you're up all night, you feel like crap, and then you wake up in the morning, for me, I'll stop and be like, realistically, how many hours did I sleep? Okay, I slept 2 hours. That if I were to wake up and go about my day, I'm going to be so upset, crashing, and not effective by noon. Like that's actually going to hurt me, right? So like I need to give my body rest and sleep and I can readjust my day. And if working out is really important to me or this thing that I'm missing is very important to me, I can for that day find a different place to put it in, or it's okay that I missed that. Now, when I look at discipline compared to giving myself grace, there are moments where we make excuses for ourselves. And if we look for that little like, am I making this an excuse? We will see if it's a yes or a no. So for example, say I wake up one morning and I'm like, oh, I'm just like a little bit tired than usual. Like I should just sleep in. That's a moment where I absolutely will not give myself grace because there's no grace to give. That's just me, a little voice in my head. And even that choice of saying, no, I'm getting out of bed and getting up is a habit because you'll never have a mind that's like always wired to like be like, hear my alarm, I'm up. Like there's going to be days where you're like, oh, I'm just a little tired, but it's how you respond to that thought. Because if every time I'm like, oh, I'm right, I'm a little tired, I'm going to just lay back in bed, that's going to become a bad habit that I don't want. So basically, I would say really look at the thing at hand. Sometimes I'll talk out loud about it. But like if I'm sick, I'll always give myself grace. I know that I have to
Right.
realistically for my body. Depending on how sick I am, I have like a scale that I go by. Like if I'm sick, I'm not doing anything, absolutely nothing. If I'm like a little bit like recovering from like a cold or like I just shouldn't be like going to a place where a lot of people are because I feel like I have a cough or something, then I can go on a walk outside if it's nice. I can stretch, I can do an at-home workout. If I'm sick in bed for like a week, I'll say, you know what? I'm still gonna get up and stretch. I don't have to like work out, but I've just gotta like move my body just a little bit. But I give myself grace so that my body can heal. But for the most part, I would say it's really those bigger moments. And then I'll talk through the next time and say, am I just like being a little lenient or do I actually need to get myself grace right now?
Yeah, I basically do the same thing. It's really just looking at the facts, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, am I tired because I slept 2 hours, or did I sleep 7.5 hours and I really could just like wake up once I actually get up and have my coffee and do all the things and I will feel better? Or is it day one of my period and I'm really tired and should be sleeping in more? So it's kind of looking at the facts.
Yes, I really like that you brought that up too, because that is a huge thing. A lot of people message me and will say like, "Well, I don't feel good on my period. Like, what do I do for my workout habit?" And that's the thing where like your body's talking to you, and if you like if you don't feel good, if it's too much, you do not need to push yourself. And I do that with myself too, where I'll be like, my first 2 days of my period, I feel like I'm dying, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
absolutely not. Like I'll like start if I don't realize that I am on it yet. I'll be like about to pass out of the gym, and I'm like, I gotta go home. Like I'm like, oh my god. So like I know those 2 days are like an out for the count, but then the 3rd day I'm like, okay, I feel really great. Like I can go do something. Like
same.
it's looking at the facts. I like how you put it that way.